Hello and welcome to After Scientology, Straight Up and Vertical, the weekly show where Tony Ortega and I get together and go over the week's events in the world of Scientology as reported on Tony's Substack. Hey, Tony.
Hey, Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing good. What a week. As always something to report on, always something going on with these guys. And this week was no exception. Now, it actually, I want to start with a story you did early in the week on Scientology TV. You keep noting, and I keep laughing about the QR codes and their attempt to use this in interesting ways. What was this about?
Yeah, a reader forwarded to me a regional report that they also put it up on Reddit, and I kind of wasn't paying a whole lot of attention to it. It looked like the usual raw about, this person's coming to give a lecture, who cares? But then as I was looking down and I noticed that nobody else had mentioned this, there were some testimonials about Scientology TV. And I'm always interested in that because, Chris, that thing's been going for 6 years now.
Oh, my God. Has it been 6 years?
I mean, David Miscavige has to pay DirecTV for that access. He's got to pay for all the production. It's unwatchable, but it's slick. They obviously pay professionals a lot of money to put that stuff out.
Yep.
24 hours a day for 6 years. And nobody's talking about it. It's had zero impact on media, on culture. I mean, it's just such a waste of money.
Yeah.
And of course, part of the issue is how do you get people to watch? And of course, Dave has convinced all of them they need to sink money into this thing because it's going to bring in so many new people. Well, where's the evidence of that? And in the past, we have seen I think one or two testimonials where people have said in publications, oh, he came in to do classes because he saw Scientology TV. But even Scientology is not making much claim that that's ending up in a huge rush of people. So in this sort of newsletter, buried in this newsletter, there were these 3 little testimonials. And I was looking at them. And when I saw what this one was about, I couldn't believe it. And I knew readers were going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Scientology is literally saying that a woman became a Scientologist because her chihuahua stepped on the remote control, accidentally dialing in channel 320 on DirecTV, and at that moment, the battery in the remote died, and the woman had no way of changing the channel. I mean, this is so ludicrous on its face, but this is what Scientology is saying happened. And so this woman she had no choice but to sit there and watch hour after hour of Scientology TV. And this convinced her to reach out to her local org and begin taking courses.
Wow.
The other 2 testimonials were slightly more believable, but the one of those other 2 that I thought was interesting was they talked about these QR cards, and Scientology's printing up these cards for people to hand out that have a QR code on it that'll take you to the app store so you can download an app to watch Scientology channel. Now, whenever I want to check it out, which is very rare, but every once in a while I want to see what they're doing over there, I just go to Scientology.tv on my laptop. It's very simple. But, people like apps. So they put out this QR code so people can download the app. And I just thought, what an admission that nobody is watching this thing when you need to print up cards so Scientologists can hand them out to convince people to go to an app store to download an app and then watch the channel. What more proof is there that nobody is watching this thing?
Exactly. And on top of that, I had to comment on this. I just looked it up to confirm this. The QR code was invented in 1994. It is 20-year-old technology. And I get it. It's usable. People use it for menus and this and that, but it's another example that I've got to say of Scientology running about 20 years behind everybody else when it comes to tech. They were slow to adopt, cassettes and then CDs and then DVD. They're always a couple decades behind. It's just noteworthy. That's all. It's just kind of funny with those folks. They make such noises about being space age, front of the line, top of the line, tip of the spear, and they never are. They never innovate about anything.
Well, and you and I have been around long enough. We can remember when the promise of ideal orgs was going to bring people in. The promise of a TV channel was going to bring people in. But now there's no excuse. I mean, the ideal orgs have been around for 20 years.
That's right.
The Scientology TV channel's been around for 6 years. There's no boom. There's no rush. If anything, it's more anemic than ever.
That's right.
And it's just amazing that because I think David Miscavige chased away a lot of people, a couple decades ago. And the few folks he has left are hanging on for dim. I mean, they're just like, you're never going to push those people away.
I think that's exactly right. I think we really are down to the hardcore. We said this years ago. I think it's the hardcore and their immediate family and friends who have to maintain the facade and, show up at the events and, do everything to not get disconnected from. But I really do believe that it is down to that as well, numbers wise. And of course, it's not, I've always sort of shied away from predictions on my channel. I'm not big on them, but it wasn't really that hard to kind of nail this one. Scientology TV was never going to take off. We said it from the very beginning. I was saying, before it even opened, I was like, this thing's going to open to great fanfare. They're going to have this big spike. And like everything they do, it's going to crash and burn.
It's unwatchable. It's not even worth watching to make fun of.
Exactly. It's really bad.
I've seen people try to do that. Like, we're going to watch 24 hours of Scientology TV. It's going to be so funny. And they're like, oh my God, I can't do this.
Yeah. Yeah. It's horribly awful. What is that term? It's not even craptastic.
No, it's not, because it's slick. It's professional. It's like watching high tech ads. It's just like, oh God.
Yeah, exactly. But a whole bunch of saying nothing, doing nothing, going nowhere, and making an awful lot of noise about it. And it's so splashy and slick, but there's nothing. There's literally all style, no substance. Okay. Now, this was another interesting one, and we're still puzzling a little bit over it, but we talked about it last week, and that's this Clearwater Beach party. Now we're seeing LA. Anyway, what's this story? What happened here?
Yeah, so Scientology definitely took out a permit. It was hard to check on the weekend, but when Monday came, my reader checked it out, and yes, Scientology had taken out the permit. They called it an annual picnic. But the nature of it, that it was 3 days, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, out at Sand Key Park, so large, all these tents, trucks, bringing out food and everything, suggest a couple of different things. Peter Nairi pointed out to me that Sea Org Day for the Flag Land Base is a special thing, because you can't just take everybody out to a park or something. You cannot stop Flag from operating.
Exactly.
And so he said they would divide into 3 shifts.
Yep.
And so that matches Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Each shift got a chance to go to the beach and have some fun. Right. However, Mike Rinder gave to me a flyer he was forwarded that showed that Flag OT teams were invited out there. So it wasn't just Sea Org. Apparently there was some public. Mike suggests that it's some kind of new thing that Dave has come up with. Combination, Sea Org a little freedom for the Sea Org, a little recruiting for the young people, a little bit of family time. They had some inflatable, bouncy stuff for the kids, and there were kids out there. I had an eyewitness. So we don't know exactly what it was. Sounds like some kind of combination. Now, I did get some photos from somebody in LA that something similar popped up out there, but that looks like it's just a Flag World Tour. I
Right.
don't think that it's the same kind of thing that was out in Clearwater. I mean, it's a
Right.
similar looking thing. It's got the tents, it's got the bouncy inflatables, but we got some flyer. Alex Barnes Ross gave me some flyers showing me that it was probably this Flag World Tour, so not the same thing.
Yeah.
But hey, Dave's spending some money. He really obviously spent some money in Clearwater. And Peter also pointed out, Peter Nairi was a former Flag official. He also pointed out that while the orgs reopened after the initial lockdowns fairly early during the pandemic, Flag was locked up tight for years. And so his
True.
theory is that Dave knows he's got to give these people a chance to blow off some steam because they have been locked up so much longer than anybody else in the Scientology universe there at Flag. And so Dave realized he had to put on a big blowout for all the staff, their families. And I think there were also some public and staff invited, not only from Flag, but my eyewitness saw buses from Orlando.
Okay.
So I think that, yeah.
Okay.
So it's an interesting little thing going on there. And maybe Dave realized he's got to give some people a day off.
Maybe, yeah. While we're in conjecture mode here about this, and I'll certainly contribute to that, I'm thinking to myself that I wonder if they simply opened up Sea Org Day to the public. Like what kind of a recruitment event would that look like if it was a kinder, gentler version of the Sea Org or something they were trying to present? Families, because if they have bouncy castles and stuff, I mean, that's not Sea Org only, right? So,
right, exactly.
I'm just trying to think of where this could go, and I get it on the blowing steam thing. Although I will say the same conditions existed in PAC and maybe in some of the other SO bases around the world, and we're not seeing this same thing there. But the idea of opening up Sea Org Day to the public and making it a recruitment event or something is something that makes sense to me. So lots of possibilities here. We're just in conjecture land, but it's interesting. Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah. Something's happening. And you're absolutely right, by the way, on the
readers. I just want to thank those readers who saw something, sent me photos. I mean, the first person for the Clearwater thing, they were saying, listen, there's tents out here. People are saying it's Scientology. And I said, well, I wasn't sure about that. And then when he said there were bouncy houses, I was like, that's not Scientology. But then the Flag buses started rolling in. Right. And he sent me pictures of the Flag buses. I'm like, okay, this is definitely Scientology. Yep. So I just really appreciate that readers were thinking of the bunker and reached out to me and sent me those photos and stuff. And it's very helpful.
Big time. And let me also add, just to cut off any ideas or conjectures in terms of the LA thing, it's definitely the Flag World Tour in LA. That I know for a fact. And that's a whole other production, which is very different from what's happening in Clearwater. So, okay, cool. So so moving on then, we also had, speaking of Alex, there was a win in the UK this week with that. What happened there?
Well, Alex Barnes Ross really had a big week. First of all, he reported at his own website that he won a records request dispute with the East Grinstead Council. Earlier this year, I think in January, the East Grinstead Council, after the mayor was so chummy at the IAS last fall, the council faced some strong questions from Alex and some other former Scientologists about the council's relationship with the Church of Scientology, which has its headquarters there, UK headquarters there in East Grinstead. In one of those council meetings, I was watching live online, and they faced some very serious questions from ex-Scientologists about, why are you so chummy with these guys, and listing some of the things Scientology had done. Well, then when the East Grinstead Council posted that video and the minutes, all those questions have been taken out. And so ever since then, Alex has been doing several different things to remind the East Grinstead Council that they really shouldn't be censoring things to help out the Church of Scientology. He's actually met with some of them, just doing some really creative things. One of the things he asked for were the original minutes and also any emails involved in that. And the East Grinstead Council denied his request based on the idea that he was a bully.
Right.
Which is just, I mean, if they think he's a bully, my goodness, they should see what politicians in America have to deal with. Right. But anyway, so Alex then appealed to a higher body in the government that took a look at it, and this week agreed with him and said, yeah, I mean, they actually, said, listen, some of the things he did weren't great. Like he made some coffee mugs making fun of the mayor and that kind of thing. But, or one of the counselors. But basically what he was asking for was in the public interest and that the council needs to fork it over. Now, the reason why I'm really excited about that is the original minutes are not that interesting to me, but he also asked for any emails involved in it. Now, previously, we'd reported on some fascinating emails between the East Grinstead Council and the Church of Scientology showing how they were just like, what does Scientology want? Whatever they want, So it'll be interesting to see if we get some new stuff along those lines. 2 days after I wrote about, so I talked to Alex about that to get some detail on that, and that was great. But then just 2 days later, the two of us, Alex and I, had a really fun piece about this school, Greenfield School, which is very close to St. Hill Manor. And it's basically the Delphi of England, if you know that reference. Famous Scientology boarding school in Oregon. This is Scientology's boarding school in England, and it doesn't serve only Scientologists. Other people can come too, but it's right there in St. Hill. All the trustees are Scientologists. They teach study tech. They use ethics stuff, overts and withholds, and all that stuff. And they had been inspected earlier this year and found that there were some deficiencies in safeguarding students against harm. And so asked them, you got to do this, you got to do that. And that was something Alex had reported on, I believe, in July. But now, bigger news. The UK Visa and Immigration Department has revoked the school's ability to host foreign students, which makes up about 20 to 30% of the student body. This is huge. I mean, and it comes at a terrible time when they've jacked up their rates already for this coming year. There's going to be some new taxes that parents are going to have to pay. And suddenly, 30 of their students out of 120 are gone because they can't get visas through the school. So I just think it's remarkable that the UK government is suddenly starting to pay real attention to these Scientology institutions and this school in particular. And of course, Chris, the question I have, and it may be hard to find out, is what is it that the UK Immigration Department found when they inspected the school and were so unhappy, they literally gave them the death penalty and just said, you can't have foreign students. What was it that they found? So I give Alex the credit. I think the reason the UK government is suddenly starting to pay more attention and starting to crack down is because he has been persisting and sending messages and sending letters and bugging people. Why are you letting Scientology get away with this? Why are these students exposed to Scientology ethics and stuff? And the government officials in the UK are responding. I wish they would respond over here.
Yeah, but exactly.
Wow, what a week. And I just think this is a real problem for them. This school is not only their only boarding school in England, but it's run by their number one attorney in the UK. Peter Hodkin is their chief trustee. I mean, this is a big deal that suddenly he's got this major headache of losing all this income.
Yeah.
So big loss for Scientology this week.
Yeah, huge. And let's also remember that these are people who take this seriously. This is a mission for them. Running this school is the next generation of Scientologists as far as they're concerned, that kind of thing. This is a blow to them in a big, big way. It could end up closing this thing down.
Absolutely.
And they're going to be like pissed about that. So it'll be very interesting to find out what's going on behind this that prompted this to happen, because it's a huge move. And between that, and the Jamie Raskin thing, I mean, we're seeing some, we're seeing some things. It's exciting. Okay, and finally, the Masterson victims lawsuit. There was a tick on the needle this week. What happened with that?
Yeah, so there's a hearing coming up. The Masterson lawsuit is so interesting. It's the Masterson victims who sued Danny Masterson and the Church of Scientology in 2019, even before he was charged criminally. And it was a harassment lawsuit. They weren't suing over the sexual assaults. They were saying that since they came forward to the police with their allegations, they had been subjected to constant harassment, intimidation, break-ins of their places, stuff like that. And one woman even alleged that her house had been set on fire, and pets had been killed. And they blamed Church Scientology and Danny Masterson. And once Danny was charged in 2020 and then went through his trials in 2022 and 2023, the lawsuit got put on hold. And then Danny was convicted, and he was sentenced almost 1 year ago now to 30 years to life in prison. Once that was done, then the lawsuit got going again. Two major things happened at that point. Scientology filed anti-SLAPP motions to try to kill it, basically saying, Judge, this lawsuit's ridiculous, kill it before it goes any farther. And then on the other side, the Jane Does, the Danny Masterson victims, what they did was in December, I believe, they filed a proposed new version of the lawsuit, an amended complaint it's called, where they're going to add a victim. They're going to add actress Trisha Vesey, who testified in the first trial. They're going to add sexual battery allegations against Masterson, which have now been proved in criminal court. And they're going to add civil racketeering allegations against the Church of Scientology and use their lawsuit to prove that Scientology is a criminal enterprise. And we've been talking about this ever since then, Chris. Yep. We're really looking forward to this happening. But the timing is such that before the judge could decide whether or not to allow in the changes, he ruled against Scientology's anti-SLAPP motions, which is a great thing. He just outright denied them, slapped them down. No, you're not going to end this lawsuit. But Scientology then appealed. And that just throws everything out of whack. It's going to be in appeals court for a year and a half, right, as the appeals court looks at Judge Kalra's denial of the anti-SLAPP motions. Well, in the meantime, those proposed changes to the lawsuit are just sitting there. And so what the Jane Doe attorneys have done before, and they did again this week, is they went to Judge Kalra and said, look, we want you to reconsider this situation. We understand why a lot of this lawsuit's going to be on hold while those rulings you made are on appeal. But that's got nothing to do with our proposed new lawsuit.
Right.
You should allow us to bring that in. And so they want him to reconsider the idea that the whole lawsuit is on hold, and so that he can rule on bringing in those new changes. And they're going to have a hearing on that this week. So that's kind of the thing I'm looking forward to. This judge has been very, he slapped down those Scientology motions, and both, Leah Remini and Jane Doe 1 tried to have their lawsuits taken under him as well, because they can see that he really, he's a good judge.
Yeah.
So we'll see this week if he reconsiders that. I think, just based on inertia, he may say, let's just wait and see what the appeals court says. And,
exactly.
Sorry.
Exactly.
So it's not a huge thing, but I think it's another way for us to judge, get a sense of this judge. And, you and I are both really interested in seeing those racketeering charges come in and get some discovery going on that. So hopefully they can do that. Otherwise, we'll just have to wait.
Yeah, it would be nice if we could kickstart that thing into gear and get some motion going on it. But I'm I kind of side with where you're thinking. I think it's just gonna, well, it's just, let's let the appeals court do its thing, and then this thing moves on. What is it? Civil court time. It's not quite
so
like
slow. I mean, Leah's lawsuit is also in the appeals court. It's just, this has been a very slow summer for litigation. Both Valerie Haney and Valeska Paris are kind of in limbo right now with their cases forced into arbitration, and none of that arbitration is happening.
That's right.
Very slow summer, but we'll see. Things will pick up again. They always do.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's sort of the state of things right now, actually. And that's where we're at. Interesting things, good things. Of course, we're in an election cycle right now that kind of affects the whole world. So politicians speaking up is, kind of a good thing right now. It's stuff we want to take advantage of and highlight when it happens, because hopefully from that we can see future action in terms of regulation and legislation. So, all right, folks. Tony, any sort of previews? We know that hearing's going to be happening this week. Anything else?
Also, there's a very interesting new person coming forward who was involved in a lot of interesting things back in the day. Kind of a big deal that they're coming forward. I should have some of that, but it's a lot of work to get it put together. I think early this week we're going to start seeing that material, and I think it's going to be very interesting for people.
Excellent. I'm looking forward. All right, good. Okay, folks. So as always, you can see Tony's Substack address right there on the screen. Go to it, sign up for it, get your notifications, and then check in with us right here on this channel for your weekly summary. And I will put out for myself here, shameless plug. I got a podcast. I got a weekly show. I got a Q&A show. Check those out too. You might find them kind of interesting. All right. That being said, I will see you. We'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.